I'm going to start off today by throwing off a question to all of you. Can how many of you in this room tell me how many bones do we have in the human body? Any guesses?
206.
Exactly. The human body is supposed to have 206 bones within it. But how many of us know that for the past 5 or 6 years, we have developed an additional bone to our body? In case you've not guessed, my friends, that bone which I'm referring to is this smartphone. That bone which refuses to leave you wherever you go. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters and guest. My speech today is going to be about the smartphone and all the technology around it and how it's impacting our life in one way or another. We have all heard the quote saying that home is where the heart is. But I'm actually going to tweak that quote and make it more relevant to the context of our current times. And that would be, the smartphone is where the heart is. Isn't it? Where the heart is, that's where it all begins. We have got so addicted to our devices that the mere thought of the battery going dead or the phone going missing for a few hours puts us in a state of panic. We start feeling a separation anxiety. We can barely get 10 feet away from this phone. And most of us are actually guilty of even taking this phone along with us to the bathroom. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands and embarrass anybody, but according to me, this is the primary reason that smartphone manufacturers have begun rolling out the latest version of their phones, which are water resistant. This actually brings to my mind an incident which happened to me 10 years ago. I had just purchased one of the latest phones at that point of time. And typically, like all of us, when we get a new phone, it's like a new toy in our hands. I was amazed by the features. Barely had a few weeks passed with my phone. And I was one day at home, and my younger son, who was fairly little at that point of time, had taken it with himself to the bathroom. When I seen that, I had a sinking feeling. My precious phone was there at the bottom of his bathtub. I yelled at him, "Pierre, what have you done?" "Dad, I'm just washing your phone." How I wish this technology for water resistance phones was there at that point of time. According to some of the latest findings, more than 40% of us Australians are addicted to our smartphones. Of that, 80% are those within the age gap of 18 to 24. Now, if any one of you in this room have got young teenage kids like myself, would realize what a challenge is it in satisfying their data needs. No kind of data plan is good enough for them. Fortunately, I work with Optus, and for those who are aware of Optus's family sharing plans, I can somehow make through the month. Having said that, these two young kids consume more than 80% of the data between the two of them. This also reminds me of the pain which I experienced over a year ago when I had just shifted into my new home. Unfortunately for me, it took more than a couple of weeks for Optus to get the telephone and internet line working. Can you imagine in today's world not having internet for a couple of weeks? Besides having to deal with the daily frustration of not being able to access the net and do what I do, I had to deal with my two data-hungry sons. Almost every day I would come from work and the first question on their mind would be, "Dad, has Optus fixed our internet problem?" One day my younger son comes to me in all innocence and tells me, "Dad, I seriously think we are being punished by God, that he has yet not fixed our Wi-Fi problem." I was pretty recently explaining to my younger son all the amazing features which are available in the smartphone and was telling him of all the apps and the upcoming technologies like IoT and how you can control devices. And I told him, also Pierre, today in real time, using the smartphone, I can track where you are. To which he cheekily turns around and tells me, "Dad, to be honest, all you can know is where my phone is." Where his phone is, that's it. These smartphones have brought a tremendous change in our behavior and our attitudes. According to some of the latest findings, nearly 1 in 2 of us who have got a smartphone get up in the middle of the night and for no reason at all will check our phones. Nearly 63% of people surveyed have admitted that the use of these phones have actually impacted their sleep patterns. 95% of us will use our phone in the hour before going to sleep. We live today in a world where capturing the moments on these devices is more important than spending them with the precious ones around us. And all this brings me back to my original thought, which I'm going to leave with all of you to ponder about. How smart have we become? Thank you.